such, I'm definitely a passionate advocate for affordable housing, and I've been speaking out about this issue for years. So that would be obviously a top priority for me. In addition, I think that we have to open up the process in order to make people feel engaged from the outset. A good example of that, of course, is not only Beauregard, but especially the waterfront, which I felt, while improved, was not visionary enough. Sorry for my voice, but I've lost it over the last couple of days. Thank you.
Thank you. Del Pepper.
I'm Del Pepper. I'm Del Pepper, and my two pressing issues are the affordable housing issues, as well as the creating commercial development, so that we will be able to balance our revenue tax base, so that we won't have such a heavy burden on the residents.
Thank you. And Melissa Feld.
Hi, I'm Melissa Feld. I'm a business owner, an immigrant, a parent of 2 children in the Alexandria City Schools, and tonight, actually, I'm a really proud Democrat. I can't believe what the president did. I am so happy that he stood up for equality, for marriage equality. My priority focus is on balancing growth and livability in the city, and I've used up my time.
Thank you very much. Now each candidate will in turn be given a randomly selected topic. You'll have 30 seconds to make whatever comments you wish on that topic. Candidates have been advised of this in advance, so again, no one should be caught by surprise. You have not been advised of the topics you will have. We will proceed in a randomly selected order. The first, Tim Levain, the topic, affordable housing.
Affordable housing is a huge challenge because you're dealing with market forces where when housing prices can go up, that we're chasing after a rapidly declining amount of affordable housing. The city is doing quite a bit, and it needs to do more. I think we need to focus on existing units, because we can get more bang for the buck, and we need to work carefully with nonprofit organizations to make sure that the city's investments in affordable housing match up well with those that the nonprofit organizations can provide.
Thank you. Sammy Moschenberg, the topic, public hearings.
Thank you for that topic. I am absolutely committed to making public hearings accessible, but more importantly, to make public engagement a big part of all of the decision-making and visioning in this city. Public hearings should be accessible to people in terms of language and disability, and public participation needs to be foremost in the mind before decisions are made in this city, not afterwards.
Thank you. Victoria Minhivar, your topic, special parking districts.
I think that traffic is related to parking, is related to cars, and I think what we need to do probably have some kind of restrictions in terms of parking. In that way, our community will be encouraged to use public transportation and also ride bikes or walk more. And that's why it's very important to have a transit system that serves the community for all parts of our cities.
Thank you. Next up, Justin Wilson, the topic, West End.
When I was right after I was born, I came home to the greenhouse on the city's West End, and my wife grew up on the city's West End. We have, as a family, have grown up around the West End of this city. Ensuring that the West End is a joint partner with the rest of the city in the growth and development of the future of this city is key. One of the major reasons I was a strong supporter and the chief sponsor of our ordinance that moved our elections to November was to ensure that the West End was a strong participant in our elections. In our May elections, we were primarily East End elections, and the East End of our city was choosing our mayor and city council, and that's why I was such a proud supporter of moving our elections in November.
Thank you. Next up, Melissa Feld, the topic, Young Professionals' Future in Alexandria.
This is a great topic. Being a small business owner and as a parent and someone who's managed multiple budgets, I understand how you have to find balance. And I think encouraging a good education system where we have young people engaged as they go through, so when they graduate, they use their creative spirit to create jobs and business growth. Young professionals need to be engaged And I think using social media and trying to find other ways to develop engagement in our city process, as well as to streamline some of the systems for businesses, would help.
Thank you. Next up, Paul Smetberg. The topic, VDOT relationship.
Oh, brother.
Well, the VDOT relationship, we obviously have, we have to be very persistent and very clear. And as it has been shown over a number of issues with hot lanes and with the ramp that they're proposing on 395 for Seminary, the city has to be very, very clear about what we want, from VDOT and why. And have a plan in place before we engage with them, because it is.
Thank you.
Yep.
Next up, Arthur Peabody. The topic, water and sewer systems, and I might add the Potomac River.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Yes, the topic is water and sewer systems, and I just added the Potomac River.
The Potomac River, a great resource, our waterfront. It seems to me that our priority there is making sure that the waterfront is a gem for the entire community. It seemed to me in our discussion of the waterfront, we focused too much on commercial uses and not the park. And flood control and sewers are a priority, and we have to ensure that public purposes are accommodated, not just by developer contributions, but by our own financial capacity and ability.
Thank you. Next up, Boyd Walker. The topic, National Capital Region.
Yes, the National Capital Region. Well, one of the focuses of my campaign is transportation, and that is essential to the National Capital Region. I'm a big proponent of streetcars. I've been asking the city to give us a cost estimate of what it would cost to upgrade the Potomac Yard bus rapid transit system to a streetcar, so we won't meet Arlington with a bus and meet their streetcar at 4 Mile Run, and have the same thing happen out on the west end of the city, because we need to connect regionally to be able to be part of the regional economy.
Thank you. Next up, John Chapman. The topic, electing council members by district versus at large.
Historically, one of the main issues in Alexandria is representation. There has been conversation many times over about our citizens getting the proper representation. And by looking at either whether we elect our school board or our city council folks at large or by district, we will answer those questions of representation. I think it's still apparent on the council that is elected to serve all Alexandrians, and until we move to a district setup or ward setup, that might not be as big of an issue.
Thank you. Next up, Donna Fossum. The topic, relationship with Arlington.
Arlington is our neighbor and has to be one of our chief partners in everything we do. We've got transportation issues. We've got infrastructure issues. They use our sewer system. We use theirs. We have got to solidify and I think strengthen the bond there. And they're very eager to. I have many friends there in the government, and I think that we have many friends here. So it's a natural alliance, and we've got to work with them on all the issues because we are neighbors.
Thank you. Next, Allison Silverberg, law enforcement.
Hi. Thank you. Well, we're very blessed here in Alexandria to have a fairly low crime rate, thanks to our bravery and courage of law enforcement, and I thank them for their service. I'm concerned that law enforcement folks have not had a COLA, a cost of living adjustment, in 5 years. By the same token, apparently no one's been let go during the downturn, but I do think a cost of living adjustment incrementally is in keeping, and I thank them for their service. And I have worked with the police, mainly in Anacostia, during the height of the crack wars when I ran a nonprofit in Southeast DC. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, Del Pepper, the relationship with that giant to the west, Fairfax County.
Well, as others have already addressed, there is the question of regionalism, and they are part of this region. It is a blessing that we have good relationships with them. They sit on any number of committees that I sit on, Northern Virginia Regional Commission as well as the Council of Governments. We share issues such as transportation and roads, water, clean water, as well as, of course, the clean air. So this is a true family here in Northern Virginia of Arlington, Fairfax, and Alexandria.
Thank you. Next, Sean Holohan, Senior Living.
Well, we have an aging population here, and we need to get in front of that. One of the many things that we have a problem with doing is taking things as they come and not strategically planning. We have to realize that we have to make a long-term investment into preparing ourselves to take care of the aging population that we have here. And if we don't do that, we're really going to get caught behind the 8 ball before it's too late.
Thank you. And next, Michael Hepburn, Fire EMS.
Very good one. I think we need to continue to develop partnerships within our city, so we're making sure that we're providing the resources needed to our public safety services. Definitely the EMS. As you know in the articles and probably by having conversations with your neighbors, we have an issue with not, in a sense, adequately funding or providing enough EMS members to staff our trucks and our fire stations. So that creates a problem when you call 911 or have an emergency where we might not have enough people to actually be able to assist you during that time of need. Public safety is something that's very important to our city, and we need to make sure that it's a top priority always.
Thank you very much. Now, the next question, we'll get into a little bit longer answers. I'll pose question number 1 to each of 4 randomly selected candidates in turn. They will have 60 seconds to respond. Then I will pose question 2 to each of 5 randomly selected candidates in turn. They will have 60 seconds to respond. Then I will pose question 3 to each of 5 remaining randomly selected candidates in turn, and they will have 60 seconds to respond. The My Point of View rebuttal cards can be used, 1 per candidate, during this section of the debate. Question number 1. What could Alexandria do in the next 5 years that would make the biggest positive difference in transportation? First up, Michael Hepburn.
Over the next 5 years, due to the small area plans that we're discussing, as well as just the concept of what our city is going to look like, we definitely need to make sure that we're providing great transportation infrastructure. I think that comes with making sure that we're able to move our residents from different points of the city with bus rapid transit. Maybe having a conversation about is having a streetcar is something that we should go after. Also making sure that we're maintaining the roads and transportation infrastructure that we have in place right now. I think as a city, we also always need to make sure that we're allowing our resources to be effective for the city. Definitely when it comes down to transportation, because that's something that you will always need, and we need to make sure it's always a top priority, and we're staying on top of it. The conversation that we need to have in our city, though, is as far as funding. Are we willing to maybe increase taxes to make sure that we're providing enough money for our transportation services and logistics? Are we willing to cut more in certain areas so we're making sure that these sources of funding is a top priority? So it's a tough decision to make, but at the end of the day, transportation is important, and City Council needs to step up, like always, provide leadership, and make good decisions.
Thank you. Same question for Sammy Motionberg.
Thank you. The high-density development that is going up in various places in Alexandria is exacerbating an already difficult problem when it comes to transportation. In the next 5 years, we've got to plan for mass transportation that will serve the needs of our community. We've got to get people out of cars. We have to provide for them affordable, accessible bus rapid transit, streetcars. We need to work closely with our neighbors. This is the perfect issue to work on regionally. It's disappointing that Arlington isn't coming to the table as we thought they would. But I think that we can persist. I think we need to use creativity, and I think we need to involve the commuters and the people of this city in planning and visioning for a future where transportation needs are met.
Thank you. Next, for the same question, Melissa Feld.
I think there's a lot that we can do. One thing I think we can work within the budget that we have and try and approach it to solve with little things, like maybe reevaluating the way our traffic flows through the city during rush hours. Look at Duke Street and perhaps making it wider so traffic goes one way, and try and cut down on some of the cut through that is occurring in the smaller neighborhoods that are offshoots of Route 1, Seminary, Taylor Run, all over the city. I think it's important to work around the tenets of smart growth. It's important to build around a metro where people don't need cars and then they can walk around.